Imagine standing in the middle of a massive, stinking landfill in Newport, Wales. It's raining. The air is thick with the smell of wet paper, rotting food, and oxidized metal. You're surrounded by 300,000 tons of literal, forgotten trash. And somewhere, buried under a decade of society's discarded junk, lies a small, rectangular piece of plastic and silicon, no bigger than a deck of playing cards. It's a hard drive. For over 10 years, a man named the Excavator, we'll call him James, has been completely obsessed with this specific spot of dirt. He's gone to the local government with a proposal worth millions of dollars. He's hired world-class hedge fund backers. He's even designed a military-grade plan involving high-tech AI sorting arms and 24-hour security teams just to find that one drive. Why? Because that hard drive contains the private keys to 8,000 bitcoins. In 2026, those 8,000 coins aren't just a fortune. They represent a ghost in the machine. But here is the thing that almost nobody is telling you, and it's the reason why you, yes, you, are probably still underestimating this asset. The 21 million Bitcoin cap, the one everyone quotes as the holy grail of financial scarcity, the data confirms it is a lie. We aren't moving toward a limit of 21 million. We are currently living through a permanent, silent, and violent contraction. Between lost hard drives, dead founders, forgotten passwords, and zombie wallets that haven't blinked since the days of the first iPhone, the actual circulating supply is already millions of coins lower than the world thinks. History proves that when an asset becomes this scarce, and then that scarcity is compounded by human clumsiness, it doesn't just create a price increase. It creates a supply shock that is going to rewrite the rules of global wealth forever. Observe the pattern, realize the math, because the floor beneath your feet is vanishing. To understand why this 21 million error is the most important financial story of 2026, we have to look at the old world we all grew up in. In the old world, let's call it the pre-2020 era, the global economy was built on a very simple yet fundamentally broken promise. That promise was we can always manufacture more. If the government needed to build a bridge, they printed more units of currency. If a bank failed because of its own reckless greed, the central bank just adjusted a digital ledger and printed more units. Well, the pattern is clear. When you can print an infinite amount of something, the value of that thing eventually trends towards zero. It's simple physics. Look at Alex. Alex is like most people watching this. He works hard, he saves what he can, but he feels drained. He looks at his bank account and realizes that even though the number is bigger than it was 5 years ago, he can afford less. Think back to your own life. Do you remember what a candy bar cost when you were a kid? Maybe 50 cents. Now, look at the price today. That candy bar didn't get better. The chocolate didn't become more premium. In fact, it's probably smaller than it used to be. What you're seeing is the currency in your pocket losing its soul. It's a slow-motion robbery that most people just call the cost of living. But in 2009, something changed. Bitcoin arrived, and it brought a completely new logic to the table. Total supply, 21 million. No more, no less. For the last 15 years, we've treated that number like a static destination. We thought, okay, eventually there will be 21 million units. But here's the reality shift. In 2026, that common sense logic has become a liability. While the Federal Reserve is busy managing a sovereign debt time bomb that has now crossed $34 trillion, Bitcoin has entered a phase of hyper-scarcity. Here's the truth. The Bitcoin supply doesn't just not grow, it actively, aggressively shrinks. Every single time a person loses a password, a coin dies. Every time an early pioneer passes away without leaving instructions for their family, 10,000 coins die. Every time someone sends Bitcoin to a burn address by mistake, those units are erased from existence. We are no longer looking at a fixed supply. We are looking at a vanishing supply. And yet, at the same time, the demand from the 8 billion people on this planet is only going in one direction: up. Imagine a game of musical chairs where every time the music stops, someone doesn't just lose their seat, the chair itself is thrown into a furnace and turned to ash. That is the 2026 Bitcoin supply shock, and you are already in the room. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, okay, that's interesting. Some people are clumsy and lose their money. But how does that affect me personally? Well, here is where we meet the specific enemy. And no, it's not some shadowy hacker in a basement. It's a mechanism I call the black hole. In the early days of Bitcoin, the asset was held by geeks, cypherpunks, and people who accidentally left their private keys on old laptops they sold at garage sales. That was the human error phase. It was messy, but it was decentralized. But today, the enemy is far more efficient and far more patient. Observe the rise of the institutional custodians. Huge entities like BlackRock, Fidelity, and giant sovereign wealth funds have finally realized exactly what I'm telling you right now. They aren't trading Bitcoin. They aren't trying to time the market to make a quick 10% profit. They are vacuuming it up. When a giant ETF buys 10,000 Bitcoins for its clients, those coins don't go back onto the open market. They don't circulate. They go into a cold storage vault, a digital black hole from which they may never, ever emerge. These institutions have what we call diamond hands, backed by trillions of dollars in legal fees and long-term corporate mandates. They are locking the exit door to the old financial system, and they are throwing away the key. Here is the trap. The more you wait for a better price or a bigger dip, the more these institutions fill their vaults. They are literally profiting from your hesitation. Think about it like this. Imagine you live in a small town with only 100 houses. Every year, a massive corporation from another state comes in and buys 5 of those houses. They don't rent them out, they don't renovate them, they just board them up and hold them as reserve assets on their balance sheet. What happens to the price of the remaining houses for the people who actually live in the town? Exactly, the price skyrockets. But it's worse than that, because you aren't just competing with your neighbors anymore. You are competing with a multi-trillion-dollar vacuum cleaner that never gets tired. The physical stress of this trap is something you likely feel every single day. You feel it when you look at the price of groceries. You feel it when you realize that your savings account interest rate is a joke compared to the rising cost of a home. You are being squeezed out of the hardest asset ever created by the very people who told you it was a scam 5 years ago. Admit it, you felt like you're running on a treadmill that's slowly speeding up, and you're starting to lose your breath. That's not your imagination. That is the black hole at work, and it's getting hungrier. To truly grasp the scale of the 21 million error, we have to move past the numbers and look at the financial physics of the situation. I want you to visualize a metaphor I call the shrinking life raft. Imagine for a second that the entire global economy is a massive luxury cruise ship. Let's call it the SS Fiat. It's a grand ship. It has history. It has gold-plated railings and 1,000 rooms. But for decades, the ship has been taking on water. The captains, the central banks, keep walking through the ballrooms, telling everyone to keep dancing. They say everything is fine, even as they secretly start building a life raft off to the side. That life raft is Bitcoin. In the beginning, the raft was huge. There was plenty of room for anyone who wanted to jump. People on the cruise ship were actually laughing at the people on the raft. They'd look over the railing and say, "Why would you sit on that tiny orange thing when you can stay here on this giant luxury liner with the buffet?" But then the ship started to tilt. The water in the lower decks became impossible to ignore. Suddenly, the laughter stopped. Now everyone wants to get on the raft. But here is where the physics of the 21 million error comes into play. This raft isn't made of wood or rubber. It's made of a strange digital material that behaves in a way that defies our intuition. Instead of getting bigger to accommodate more people, this raft shrinks every time someone boards it. Actually, it's even weirder than that. Even if nobody new gets on, about 4% of the raft's floor just vanishes every single year. This is the lost supply. This is the millions of coins that are gone forever because of human error and death. Now, imagine the scenario we are entering in 2026. 8 billion people, the entire population of the planet, suddenly realizing all at once that the cruise ship is actually going to sink. They all rush for the life raft at the exact same time. But because the floor of the raft is shrinking, the price of space on that raft doesn't just go up in a straight line, it explodes. Think about the sheer density of wealth that is about to happen. In the old world, if you wanted to be considered rich, you needed $1 million in your bank account. But in this new world, because the raft is so small and the crowd is so incredibly large, owning 0.1 Bitcoin, 1/10 of a coin, might eventually make you one of the wealthiest people in your entire city. The price isn't going up in the way we think. The raft is just getting more crowded as the floor vanishes beneath your feet. If you understand the laws of gravity, you understand this. If you have a fixed amount of mass in a space that is rapidly getting smaller, the pressure has to increase. We are currently living in the highest pressure financial environment in human history. Most people think they have all the time in the world. They think, "I'll wait for the next market cycle," or "I'll buy when it's more stable." But stability is a luxury of the past. When the floor of the raft is vanishing, waiting for a dip is like waiting for the ocean to stop being wet while you're already chest deep in the water. Let's look at a real-world case study of how this math plays out. When you stop looking at the price and start looking at the supply. We need to talk about the ghost of Satoshi. Satoshi Nakamoto, the anonymous creator of Bitcoin, is estimated to own roughly 1.1 million coins. These coins haven't moved. They haven't been touched, traded, or even blinked at in over 15 years. In the early days of the network, people were terrified of these coins. There were entire forums dedicated to the fear that Satoshi would wake up and dump them all on the market. People thought the price would crash to zero in an hour. But as time has gone on, the market has realized something much more profound. Those 1.1 million coins are effectively digital ash. Whether Satoshi is dead or just decided to never touch the money, those coins are a part of the 21 million error. They exist in the code, yes, but they do not exist in the economy. Now, let's add the math up. Take Satoshi's ghost coins, add the 8,000 coins in the Newport landfill held by the excavator, and then add the estimated 2 million coins that were lost in the first 3 years of Bitcoin's existence, when the price was literally zero and people didn't think twice about throwing away their old hard drives. Here is your aha moment. If 4 to 5 million coins are permanently, physically gone, then the real supply of Bitcoin isn't 21 million. It's closer to 16 or 17 million. Now, look at the specific action of the big players in 2026. In 2024 and 2025, companies like MicroStrategy and nations like El Salvador didn't just buy Bitcoin. They adopted a never sell treasury policy. They are intentionally creating what economists call a supply wall. Every time they buy a coin, they are effectively losing that coin on purpose. They are taking it out of circulation and putting it into a multi-sig vault that might not be opened for 50 or 100 years. So, let's look at the remaining floating supply. 17 million real coins exist, minus 5 million held by institutions with a corporate mandate to never sell, minus 3 million held by hodlers, regular people who would rather go bankrupt than sell their stack. What is actually left for the rest of the world to buy? Maybe 9 million coins for 8 billion people. If you do the math on that, it's roughly 0.001 Bitcoin per person on Earth. If you own more than that right now, you are already winning a game that most people don't even realize has started. The pattern is clear. We are moving toward a world where you don't buy a whole Bitcoin anymore. That ship has sailed. Instead, you're going to be fighting for a few sats, the tiny fractions, just to have a foothold on that shrinking life raft. Realize this: the scarcity you see today, even with the price at these levels, is the most abundant Bitcoin will ever be for the rest of human history. Let that sink in. Now, here is the part of the video where I'm supposed to give you a call to action and tell you to go out and buy as much as you can. But I'm not going to do that, because here is the ugly truth that the hype train influencers won't tell you. 99% of the people watching this video, even the ones who fully understand the math I just explained, will still fail. Why? Because knowing the truth in your head and having the stomach to hold it in your gut are two very different things. The 21 million error doesn't just create scarcity, it creates a level of volatility that is specifically designed to shake you out of your position. The system wants your coins. The black hole wants your spot on the raft. When the price drops 20% in a single Tuesday afternoon, the specific enemy, Wall Street and the media, will use every tool they have to tell you that Bitcoin is dead, again, for the 500th time. They want you to panic. They want you to feel that cold sweat in your palms so that you drop your keys into their open, waiting hands. Most humans are psychologically wired to buy things when they are expensive and sell them when they are cheap. It's an evolutionary instinct to follow the herd. If everyone is running away from something, your brain tells you that you should run too. But the herd is staying on the SS Fiat, and history is very clear about what happens to the herd when the ship goes down. The hard truth is that this supply shock won't feel like a smooth golden escalator to wealth. It will feel like a war of attrition. It will feel like everyone you know, your parents, your friends, your coworkers, calling you crazy for holding on to a volatile asset while the world seems to be falling apart. But observe the people giving you that advice. Are they wealthy? Are they financially free? Or are they just repeating the scripts they were taught by a system that needs them to be compliant and predictable? The exit door is narrowing, and most people will be too busy arguing about the daily price, while the long-term value has already left the building. If you can't handle the sight of your net worth fluctuating on a screen, while the physical supply is contracting in the real world, you aren't ready for the life raft. You'll just end up jumping back into the freezing water the moment the raft hits a wave. Listen, if you've felt overwhelmed by everything we've talked about today, I want you to know it is not your fault.
The global financial system was designed to be confusing. It was built with layers of jargon and complexity specifically to make you feel small. It wants you to leave the big decisions to the experts. But now that you see the system for what it is, it can no longer control you. The 21 million error isn't a disaster for you. It's the single greatest opportunity of your lifetime. It's the first time in human history that the average person, the person watching a YouTube video in their room, has access to a perfectly scarce asset before the rest of the world fully understands what it is. Think about that. Usually, by the time an asset is proven to be this valuable, it's already been locked away in the vaults of kings, central banks, and the 1%. But because of a weird, beautiful glitch in history, you are standing at the table while the cards are still being dealt. Slow down for a second. You don't need to be a billionaire to win this game. You don't even need to be a professional trader with 10 monitors. You just need to be more patient than the institutions. The black hole has billions of dollars, but it also has quarterly earnings reports and angry shareholders to answer to. It has rules it has to follow. You have no rules. You can choose to opt out of the infinite printing game today. You can choose to own a piece of the raft that can never be diluted, never be inflated, and never be taken away, as long as you don't throw your hard drive in the trash like the excavator. The realization of scarcity is the beginning of true freedom. So, practically speaking, how do you actually use this information? Here are your 3 weapons to survive the coming supply shock. Weapon number 1, the mental reset. Stop measuring your wealth in dollars or euros or yen. Those are leaky buckets. If you have a bucket with a hole in the bottom, it doesn't matter how much water you pour into it. Eventually, it will be empty. Start measuring your wealth in your percentage of the total supply. If you own 0.01 Bitcoin, you own exactly 1/1,000,000th of the final supply that will ever exist. That percentage can never be taken from you. The dollar value you see on your app is just noise. Focus on the signal. Weapon number 2, the immediate guardrail, self-custody. The 21 million error only works in your favor if you actually physically own your keys. If your Bitcoin is sitting on an exchange, it's not on your life raft, it's on their life raft. And as we have seen time and time again in this industry, those rafts can and do sink. Get a hardware wallet, move your coins, become your own bank. It's a small step that changes your entire relationship with money. Weapon number 3, the systemic hedge. Automate your scarcity. Don't try to time the supply shock. You aren't faster than the high-frequency trading bots on Wall Street. You will lose that game. Instead, set up a recurring purchase, small amounts every week, every month. In the old days, they called this dollar cost averaging. In 2026, we call it stacking sats. You are slowly, quietly building your section of the raft, while everyone else is wasting their energy trying to predict the tides. Here is the checkmate question I want to leave you with. When the rest of the world finally realizes that the 21 million was actually 15 million all along, will you be holding a seat on the raft, or will you be the one still swimming in an ocean of infinite fiat? The answer to that question is going to determine the next 40 years of your life. Choose wisely. Everything we've talked about today boils down to one simple, unavoidable truth. In a world of infinite copies, the only thing that actually matters is the original. You are living through the greatest transfer of wealth and the single greatest scarcity event in the history of our species. This isn't just about making money or seeing a number go up on a screen. It's about what you leave behind. It's about building a foundation for your future self and your family that isn't made of paper that can be burned or digits that can be deleted by a central authority. The 21 million error is a gift for those who have the eyes to see it. But remember, even as you master this level, even as you secure your spot on the raft, a new, more invisible wall is waiting for you in the shadows. Because wealth isn't just about what you own, it's about who controls the network that wealth lives on. Next time, we pull back the curtain on the one silent force that destroys even those who follow all the rules. A force that is currently hiding in plain sight within the very code we trust. Don't throw away your hard drive. See you in the next one.